We're doing outstanding. August 28th, 2024, 32 minutes to the open. Talk really quick about the markets, some of the names I'm looking at, some of the catalysts that we have for this week. NVIDIA earnings after close, CrowdStrike, PCE data on Friday, and the jobs report coming out next Friday for August, which I think is probably gonna be more important than the PCE data. All right. So really quick, you take a look at yesterday, markets gapped lower at the open, reverse course into the green, and then pretty much just chopped around for the rest of the day in a somewhat lackluster or boring session. Uh, Not good for options unless you're in an individual name that's moving substantially more than the markets. But I think in a whole, uh, when markets have rallied so far off the lows from the start of August, some consolidation is certainly welcome to see, some profit taking, what have you, and healthy for the next leg. The concern would be, and I talked about this on the rant yesterday, that maybe there's going to be calls for the double top, right? Markets hit the highs July 16th, all the way down to those lows at the start of August on the the jobs report and concerns in Japan, and that they're gonna be a little more hawkish, and the yen going crazy, and the carry trade, all that, the garbage, which you don't hear about much anymore, right? Only a couple of weeks removed from that. So the concern would be that that rally from August all the way up to where we were in July is almost like a double top setup, and typically double tops are not bullish in nature, but to me, hopefully chalk it up to consolidation. Markets can chop around. Maybe again today, the video posted a monster beat and raise, which I think they're going to need to do to appease folks and appease the markets, and then we can start looking at that 565 break, all-time highs on the SPY. The the small caps gave it back two sessions. Friday was up 3%. Um, and Monday rallied, I think it was up 0.8%, and then today gave some of it back. So hopefully that can find some footing. So now individual names, and Clear Secure has just been on a monster tear, and I keep talking about this bull flag up another 2% yesterday. I don't want to be in a spot where I lose some profit, so I took some of my September strikes off for nearly 100% to cover costs. I may like I was looking for like 31, 32 calls possibly, so we'll see if there's some more follow through today. I'll look to play or add more strikes for that move into the 30s. At the same token, once the September strikes, once it breaks 30, I'll probably lock those in and just hold the later dated strikes. That's kind of the thought process there on Clear. Redfin, monster 3 session rally, up 18% on Friday, up another like 4% or so on Monday with that nice end of day rally. And then yesterday gave some of that back, closing down 4%. Still think the whole backdrop for housing and any name in the housing space, especially a name like Redfin, it bodes well for it to trade up near $15 in the coming weeks and months. So I'll continue to look for some more strikes there. There was a nice little slide. I don't even know. I posted in the chat room. I don't know why it's in this little spot here, but nice little stat here on NVIDIA. So if you're looking for uh, a beat and raise on NVIDIA back when it was before it split, they would be raising price targets, and you'd be like, what is this analyst? What are they? What's in their coffee when they're coming up with these price targets? And now all of a sudden, you take a look at the companies that have a 90% share of buy ratings in the S&P, and NVIDIA is 10th on the list in regards to how much upside analysts think that the company has. Yeah, 11% upside, which I mean it's a large market cap company, so 11% on their market cap is substantial, but still considering where it's trading now, the consensus price target, so 128, price target's 142 and change on average. I just Again, it's like it's up so much, right? It's the number one performing S&P company so far this year. Was it 143% or something like that this year? Uh, it just kind of shows that maybe there's an opportunity for even more upside. So I'm not sitting here. I'm not overly bullish the name. I think it's going to require a huge beat. Some people are talking a $30 billion revenue quarter. I think estimates for 28 billion. If it does 30 billion and they give some rosy guidance, I think, and the guidance is typically more important. So even if they don't have a smashing beat on the revenue side, I think the guidance can be more important. Uh, but nice little slide there. So speaking of names in the AI space, DELL, 8 sessions in a row trading between 108 and 112. One of these times it's going to start to break out. I was hoping it was going to be before today or even before tomorrow. NVIDIA earnings will certainly cause some sympathy moves in names like Supermicro and Dell, even HPQ. So big beat and raise will bode well for Dell, and I think 120 or so plus into earnings is probably where I think it's going to be. I don't know if that's going to be the case. Uh, if it starts to show strength today and maybe 118, 119, I will look to add some more speculative calls into the earnings tomorrow. If not, I'll look for some opportunities to close some of my September strikes in to cover costs and ride the rest. But bullish Dell, I think the whole spin and narrative around their margin servers uh, is kind of it's like a moot point. It just gave folks an opportunity to take profits, and I think it's an opportunity for people to buy the dip. Chewy announced earnings this morning. It was kind of like a mixed bag. Revenues okay, same store sales, their comps okay, and then the margins were strong. And I guess there are talks of their margins increasing as the quarter next quarter and the quarter after. They also talked about their average user base growing finally. So I think those are kind of good things. But stock's just sitting here; it's almost flat for before the open. I put it on a watch list. If it shows some strength, maybe it breaks over 27 after the open. I might look for some 30 strikes, some spec calls, just because I think that story with Chewy, it's not done. And just look at its fundamentals, how it trades revenue wise, and then also the fact that now that its margins are going up, I think that bodes well there. I don't know why Super Micro is selling off here right now as I'm talking. 512 is probably an SEC investigation, right? That's probably what it is. Uh, they're delaying their 10K. Ho, ho, ho. Wow. That's not a good thing. Supermicro's delaying their 10K. Who knows if it's in regards to maybe they got some from the SEC or what have you. But yeah, and that's going to pull Dell down. All right, so that's Chewy. Turn, keep talking about adding some October strikes. At some point, I'll add them. I'm going to add them before uh, the end of this week because obviously September is next week. So don't want to be in a spot where I don't have those calls. And then last but not least is the NVX. It keeps failing to break that 200-day moving average. I locked my September puts in for a small gain last week or the week before just because the premiums weren't going up as much as I thought they would because I think there's a lot of folks who are either extremely leveraged to the upside, who are using options to protect their investment, and there's a lot of shorts in the name. And I think the short interest went up to an all-time high. 41 million shares sold short on this. This just insanity. What is it insanity, right? 41. It's not just one person's shorting the stock, but because of those two factors, the premiums on the options are almost make it unplayable. So I I'll continue to look for opportunities. I was looking yesterday, and I think if it stays under this 200-day moving average, is setting up for a move to $8. And I think yesterday, the CEO who he left Twitter, which Elon Musk didn't leave Twitter in the back before he bought Twitter and changed it to X, and he experienced a lot more trolling and things like that. But then he came out with a post on Medium yesterday or the day before and talking about their new factory opening, right? And and then in that press release, he talks about how many people attended it from customers. And I mean, if you know customers, typically customers are people who buy stuff from you, right? But these are customers that haven't bought anything, but they still call them customers. And there were, I don't know, 34 of them or 32 of them supposedly attended the event, which is great. And then the CEO of ENVX writes in a Medium post, he quotes two of those executives, and it doesn't name the company, it doesn't name any, it just says executive at top 5 or top 7, whatever it is, phone or whatever company, and they quote them on saying, "Wow, great job." It's like, how does that work? Do you go around at that opening and then have your notepad out and say, "Hey, can you give me a quote so I can send this out to my shareholders?" Anyway, mind-boggling. To me, it's like why would you leave X, which is a great platform to communicate with your investors, and then you're going to go to Medium and post stuff? And pretty much probably why he's doing that is you're not going to get the incessant number one, the folks who probably gotten destroyed based on buying the stock on all the hype that the company has created via their unsubstantiated their vague press releases. So that's one. Number two is the bears, who's probably been pretty incessant. But at the end of the day, you hit the mute button or you block, right? But I guess, are you allowed to block these days? If you're a publicly traded company, I don't know how that all works now. But anyway, folks, we've got about 22 minutes to the open. SMCI just broke under 500 for a minute. It's not a good thing to see that that delayed filing. Certainly not a good thing. All right, let's have a great day, folks. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.